going to lift up the tailgate slightly, support it on your leg, and I'm going to use a pry tool right here, and I'm going to lift up on this retainer spring clip here, push our tailgate cable up and pop that off. Going to repeat for the other side. Be sure to hold onto that tailgate with your leg or have some assistance. You don't want to drop that tailgate down. Now we're going to lift up our tailgate, and we're going to lift up on the passenger side, and that's going to disconnect the pivot point at the base. Once that disconnects, we're going to pull the whole tailgate to the passenger side and disconnect it from the driver's side. We're going to go ahead and use our T50 Torx bit. We're going to remove the 2 Torx screws holding this pivot on here. Now that we have this one loose, we're going to loosen this one here. Once we have them both loose, we'll go ahead and remove them both. Now before we remove this top screw completely, you look inside here and you can see that there's a pivot bracket here that the screws go into. It's also a tab with a notch in our bracket. I'm going to use a pick, and I'm going to pull that bracket onto that tab. This is where I'm going to take the new part. I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize compound on the threads here. I'm actually going to bring this out. I'm going to install the lower screw here to hold that bracket. With that holding that in place, we don't have to worry about that bracket falling off and going underneath the vehicle. Now I'll take our other screw, put this in, have some anti-seize compound on the threads, and we'll go ahead and catch the bracket. Let's go ahead and snug those down. Now at this point here, this bracket is adjustable, and this can change the position of your tailgate. You want the tailgate to fit flush here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just match up our bracket, our pivot bracket here, where the original one was. You can see the marks in the paint. I'm just going to line it up into that, and then I'm going to snug this down. Now inside of our Torx screws here is the factory paint. Now we're going to use a T50 Torx bit, and that doesn't want to just slide on in there. So what I'm going to do is I get the Torx bit lined up, and I'm just going to tap it with the hammer. And that kind of pushes it in, breaks the paint free a little bit, and you give it a few taps. Wiggle that out. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the upper one. Now this is doing twofold. One, it's getting the Torx bit seated all the way in there, clearing the paint out, but also the shock of it will break or may assist in breaking this free a little bit, help with the removal. Now we're going to loosen this. We're not going to remove it all the way. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove the lower Torx screw here. Good, spin out that lower Torx screw here. I'm going to pivot this up. You can see that there's a bracket in the back here. And by keeping this screw in the top here, it keeps that bracket in place. Doesn't allow for it to drop down. I'm going to take our new bracket here. I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize compound on the threads. I'm going to pivot this up. Install the lower Torx screw here. Now that we have that in place, we go ahead and spin out the top the rest of the way. I'm going to put a little anti-seize compound on this here. And then we could flip this up and line this up. Get that installed. Let's go ahead and start to snug those down. At this point here, before we tighten these down, we want to make sure that we do have some adjustability here. So we're going to loosen these up just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is line up our pivot bracket here to the point where the factory paint line is right around that. I can match it up on the top and bottom. And then we'll go ahead and snug those down. You want to check the bottom, make sure that that is lining up as well. Might take you a couple tries to get this lined up just right. But this is critical because this is where lining up the tailgate with the bedside is gonna be the most important. So By doing this here, you're going to ensure that that lines up nice. Now when tightening these here, once it starts to get really snug, you can pretty much stop there. Before we install our tailgate, we're just going to go ahead and put a thin coat of grease on our pivot here. And we'll do the same for the passenger side. Now we're going to take our tailgate, we're going to line up our end cap here, slide that into place. At this point right here, there is a plastic or nylon sleeve right here with a notch in it. I put some grease inside the pocket, stuck it in, that way there, it keeps it kind of stuck in place right now, and that holds it in so we can go ahead and install the rest of this. I want to go ahead and line up the tailgate, lift up, slide that into place. Then we can go ahead and lower our tailgate. Let's go ahead and install our cable. Let's go into the other side and get that installed. We want to clean off the side of the bed where the latch goes. Put a little bit of grease in there. And right here is our latch for our tailgate handle area. So we're going to clean this. I'm going to apply some fresh grease on this unit here. I'm going to do the same for the other side. Once you're all set, go ahead and close it up. With our tailgate up, you want to go ahead and make sure that the tailgate is flush with the corner of the bed here. Check on the other side as well. If this doesn't seem to be lining up flush, this is where you want to go ahead and drop the tailgate back down. You may have to remove the tailgate, go ahead and adjust the pivot in there, and then reattach and repeat that process until you have it nice and smooth. We did go ahead and reinstall our pivot bracket, lining up with the paint markings on the truck, and ours matched up absolutely perfect, so we're good to go.